Uh, Thank you, Stanford Blockchain guys and Columbia University for hosting this. I'm Rachin, founder and CEO at Metalayer, and today I'm going to be talking about what multi-settlement L2 is and how it can be crucial in unifying major ecosystems across the space. So we're all familiar with the problem that we have multiple isolated chains, and there's little to no connectivity between them, and the problem keeps getting worse every day with like new chains coming out. So we need a way to enable better connectivity across these chains. So luckily, we have some amazing teams working on these solutions like Orbit, Superchain, AgLayer, etc., all of which allows a chain to opt into their protocol to get connected to other chains within that specific protocol. So each of these chains, they are tightly connected within the other chains within the same ecosystem. And that is where the problem lies as well, because, for example, a chain in Arbitrum on Optimism Superchain cannot get connected to another chain on Arbitrum Orbit. So now we end up in a world with fragmented ecosystems, which again brings us back to the same problem that we're trying to solve. So, and this is nicely put a quote in Twitter, which says, if there are multiple ag layers, there is no ag layer. So at Metalayer, we took a step back to think about this problem from a different perspective, and we ended up building an L2 that settles on multiple chains, which allows us to aggregate liquidity from different chains into the same execution environment, which then means that a chain doesn't have to opt into the system to be able to connect it to other chains. Yeah, we know we've been flooded with multiple L2s in the past year or so, but the problem is not that we have many L2s. It's just that we have many identical L2s, and yeah, all I can say is we are different, we are better, and yeah, as my friend Wade I likes to put it, we don't need more infra, we need better infra, and that is what we're trying to build. So this is the infamous modular stack, probably made famous by Nick White at Celestia, which explains like the different components involved in the building process of a blockchain. And yeah, on the right is investors throwing money at any pitch deck that has this diagram. So here we go again. Thank you, Nick. So on the execution layer and data availability layer side of things, we've had multiple experimentations. So far, on execution layer, we have things like Movement Labs, we have Eclipse with all VML2s they're building, and on the data availability layer side, we have things like Celestia, Avail, etc. But little to no work has been done on expanding on or doing experimentations on the settlement layer itself, and that is where we're trying to expand upon. So yeah, like settlement, what exactly is settlement? A settlement might just be one of the most misunderstood term in the space. And if you go ask 10 different people as to what settlement is, you might end up with 10 different answers. But simply put, settlement really is the process of utilizing another chain's consensus to store your state and building a protocol around it to basically allow one to update the state given a valid proof, which then means you don't have any additional consensus, which also then means you can build a canonical bridge from the base chain that is the settlement layer to the layer 2 itself without introducing any new trust assumptions. So that is the single chain settlement paradigm, and what we are building is we are extending that and storing the state on multiple chains and establishing a canonical bridge from all of these chains into a single execution environment that is Metalayer, which then allows us to, again, aggregate liquidity and also security from multiple chains into one. So that to coordinate this state sync across all these chains, we have meta consensus, which mostly consists of two components, that is proof of finality and proof of singularity. And proof of finality allows one to verify the validity of cross-domain transactions, and proof of singularities keeps the state across chain in sync. I won't be able to go into detail because of the time limits, but happy to chat more about it after the talk. Yeah, and what this implies is we can now build this unification layer, which unifies the holy trinity of the crypto space. That is, by building an L2 that settles on Bitcoin and Ethereum and Solana all at once, and beyond that as well. That is a very exciting path that we feel we're working towards. And I want to touch a little upon as to like why this also means we are building a safer version of centralized exchange. Let's start out by defining what a layer 1 is. So like you start with a bunch of people forming a committee, you add some censorship resistance and reorg resistance mechanism on top, and optionally you can add execution layer on top as well, but that's not necessary. You separate out execution from the L1 itself, you get an L2. And between multiple L1s and L2s, you pass the messages using a bridge, which is another third-party consensus that is attesting to the messages between these chains. But the caveat is that you lose the original chain's censorship resistance and reorg resistance, all the security properties during the process, because now you're relying on the bridge committee to attest to the messages correctly. And moving from bridge to the centralized exchange world, you still have the committee, but it is a one-man army. And over the years, one thing we've learned is we do not want one-man armies in the space. And yeah, like on centralized exchanges, you have limited execution functionalities like swapping, lending and borrowing, etc. And yeah, like now if we introduce the original chain censorship resistance, reorg resistance, and all their security properties back with a full-on execution layer on top, what you get is Metalayer, which kind of is equivalent to trust-minimized, non-custodial, and programmable version of a centralized exchange, which is very exciting, which then means that now you can basically fork Uniswap and deploy it on Metalayer, which can now support atomic swaps between ETH and Sol, without any new, without new modifications at all. So yeah, as much as I'm tempted to say this, that we're building the L2 for onboarding billion users on chain, I know for the fact that 99% of the startups that said this 4 years ago are nowhere to be found. So I'll just stay more pragmatic and say that what we're working on is a way to onboard the centralized exchange users on chain, which means net new users, net new liquidity, and net new activity on chain, and then rather than fighting for the same on-chain users, existing set of on-chain users. So this is very, very exciting to us, and yeah, like that's it for the presentation. I wanted to thank Professor Dan Bonnet here, who was generous enough to help me out while designing Metalayer, and also we're working on probably one of the most exciting ideas in the space right now. And we're hiring across all levels of the stack. So if this is something that excites you, please feel free to reach out to me on any of these handles mentioned. Yeah, thank you so much.